There have been reports that U.S. President Barack Obama may make one last attempt to revive peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians by pushing a resolution through the UN Security Council. ILTV's Erin asked former senior Israeli diplomat in Washington, Lenny Ben David, for his insight as to the likelihood of such a move.
I think it's possible, but he clearly knows better than to try to reestablish immediately any peace talks. Such a resolution will be to set policy for the future administration, to bind their hands, whether it's Mrs. Clinton or whether it's Donald Trump. If the policy is such, then they'll follow through with it, supposedly. It's impossible to reestablish today peace talks. There can be talks at coexistence, such as Israel providing a gas line for the Palestinians in Gaza. There can be talks about a new cell phone network for Palestinians. That's coexistence. That's the people-to-people work. And that's what the original Madrid conference sought to establish. It won't happen. You're not going to see people sitting down and talking at this stage for several reasons. 81-year-old Mahmoud Abbas is now looking, supposedly, for a successor. And there's a big fight over that successor. He is under tremendous pressure because of the corruption in his administration and his patronage of his sons, who have made millions. And all of that is coming out right now. And so he himself does not have the confidence of the Palestinian people. Meanwhile, the Arab cities of the West Bank, particularly Nablus, where anarchy reigns, or Hebron, where they've actually made inroads to Jordan to reestablish some connections, or Ramallah, where you have the fight between the old generation called the Tunisians, who came in with Arafat and Abu Mazen, versus the younger Palestinian NGO leaders. All of this indicates that the Palestinians are not united on what they want. And as such, I don't see peace talks bearing much fruit.
It would not seem as though Israel or the Palestinian territories has played much of a role in this presidential campaign. In fact, when it comes to Israel, it would seem that the 2016 campaign, it hasn't been much of an issue at all, as it has been traditionally in the past.
I agree with you. And both sides have avoided, for now, any attack on the current administration's policy. I think we'll start to see some of it as we get closer to the election day and some of the battlefield states and some of the big states, New York, Florida, California. It may be perceived that these are issues that will have some kind of resonance. But for the most part, it's not a major issue, which also says something about the United States' support for Israel. The people of the United States support a strong U.S.-Israel relationship, despite what we see about BDS or campus eruptions. In the main, the polling in the United States is very strongly pro-Israel. As such, it's really not worth it for any candidate to make an issue out of it, or at least to attack Israel in this respect. The only thing we will see are organizations on the fringe who have been working with the Obama administration on Iran and on Palestinian issues. I don't see a major change in the U.S. as a result of this election.
So what do you foresee then when it comes to the relationship that Israel will have with the next presidential administration? Are you at all concerned?
I've been involved in U.S.-Israel relations for well over 40 years. And one thing that I learned from the founder of AIPAC, Cy Kennan, was a truism that the first year of administration, quote, belongs to the Arabs. The second year belongs to the Israelis. Why? Because of elections. Because of the congressional election cycle, where Congress has always been there to support Israel. The first year of an administration, in particular, when they're looking for policy, when they're looking for a new, or when the bureaucrats, particularly in the State Department, run policy, that's when you attempt to have by some, a change. That's exactly what happened with the Obama administration. Their first act, what did they do? They named George Mitchell to go into the Middle East. And President Obama himself, when he met with the Jewish leadership, he said that he would want some light between Israel and the United States. He doesn't want them to be in lockstep. And so it will not be an easy honeymoon when he or she comes in. But that's why Congress is there. Congress traditionally plays that role of holding back administration efforts to pressure Israel.